Today on the podcast, we have Jasper Cote, who is a North Bay Area musician who has three different bands: Pool Boys, Dog Band, and his own individual project, Hugo Saint Valentine. His big three are: he has a Capricorn sun, he is a Virgo moon, and he is a Cancer rising. Enjoy the episode.
So thank you, Chart, for letting me know that this is not in my head.
Then the moon pulled me in, and we made out all night. I was like, that's big romantic Cancer vibes right there. It's a little bit hazy, a little bit foggy. Like it's like you have to
Oh
make
yeah,
through that.
yeah, of course. Every day.
It becomes like all about the other and not much about looking at what you need for yourself.
Stop reading me. Just kidding. Please continue reading.
Okay, so today I'm so excited to have Jasper Cote here with us talking about all of his different musical projects. And we're excited to
Oh, thank
get
you.
into all the goodness of your chart. I have to say, I try not to compare charts. I try not to be like, this is a great chart or this is like a terrible chart, because every chart has good and challenging aspects to it. But I have to say, I was looking at your chart and I was like, this chart just seems like a sweetheart of a chart.
Oh, I'll take it.
I was
Swear.
like, I was like, I don't know this guy, but I have a feeling he's going to be a really nice guy.
I hope so.
Yeah. No, I was
Yay! That's all you want to hear. That's all you want to hear.
No, it was really fun looking at your chart and everything, which we're going to get more into and everything. But I was curious, first of all, your relationship with astrology. Is this something that you believe in? Is this something that you have practiced a lot in the past, or what is your relationship like with astrology?
My relationship kind of has always been from other people, and then I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll read my chart. It started in high school. I was dating somebody, and we were on Snapchat at the time. It was like
I re
2015, 2014,
I
and
remember Snapchat. Oh yeah.
Snapchat had the apps. Yeah, exactly. And it's back now or whatever. But they had all the apps, right? And there was the Cosmopolitan app on it that you could go through, and they always had a horoscope section. So every morning we'd read our horoscope, and that was where it first started. And then that petered out, and then so I think it kind of came back during college with like things like CoStar happening, kind of the social media aspects of astrology coming into effect, and then during COVID, it reached a peak where like I feel like it was like the first like week or two of like hardcore COVID. There was something like I can't remember exactly, but like Channing Tatum made a post on Twitter or something like that, and it was like, "This is not an ad, but who's working at the Pattern? Like, and why do you know so much about me?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a fun thing to hear." So I went on the Pattern and was like, "Oh my god, why do they know so much about me too?" So that's kind of where it left off, other than just chatting with my friends who are very into the astrological field.
I love
So
that. So
it's been like more of like a fun, yeah.
it's been yeah, a fun thing to look at, and the pattern is pretty fun. I've definitely used it in the past, and it is fun to like look at your pattern, but then sometimes the pattern will bring up these really personal things about other people's patterns. Have you had that happen?
I probably it's been a minute, but I definitely remember being like, a lot of gasps
Yeah,
and stuff like
a lot of gas. Yeah, no, it has definitely been. It's funny when you like, you're connected with someone else, like a friend on the pattern, and then they'll actually bring up their like like their past and their whole trajectory, and it's really personal about them, but like you're receiving it. So it's a little bit, I think that's a little weird to like know so much about someone else's pattern when it's like not your own, but it is
that.
fun. And it is,
A
yeah, it's
secret they shared kind of with you.
it
Yeah.
is. It's kinda like, okay, well, you can kinda know this about someone, and it keeps you engaged, I guess. So it's a lot of fun, but that's great. It's cool that you already kinda have that background of astrology, and it seems like, I mean, I know in LA, astrology is such a big part of the culture, and, I would think San Francisco is too. I'm actually from Sebastopol, California.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah, beautiful place.
San Francisco definitely seems like a pretty artistic, spiritual. I mean, I know Northern California is where I'm from, is very spiritual, very holistic. That's where I started doing astrology and started like learning about astrology from my own astrologer. But it seems like San Francisco has that artistic vibe too and is pretty holistic, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of that here. A lot of crystals, a lot of um yeah, I think it's a pretty spiritual place. The Bay Area. I think there's a lot happens here, and I think a lot of people are kind of in tune with, or think that they're in tune, or the universe, like thinking about stuff like that is definitely big here that I've seen.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. And I guess I'm curious if you feel like, I mean, I definitely see things in your chart that would make me feel like you're a pretty spiritual person or pretty tuned in, you could say, to maybe what's going on, not only around you with people, but in terms of being sensitive to intuition and downloads and things like that. Do you feel like you're pretty tuned in, I guess?
Yeah. I was like, my parents grew up religious, but then that we had no religion. Like, when I was born, we had no religion in the family, so fairly agnostic. My mom really believes in like ghosts and spiritual things like that, so it's definitely been something that's like familiar to me, like those kind of conversations of the universe and that kind of thing, rather than like a traditional religion. So I'm definitely somebody who looks for signs and has historically looked for sign, like, oh, universe, give me a sign. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that rabbit running across the street is the universe telling me da 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 da. To more extents in life than others. Um,
Mhm.
Maybe when I need something from the universe rather than like an everyday. But I have, my whole philosophy is I don't know what I have no like claims to what is real and what is not. So bring it all on to me is kind of the way that I go about it. Because I don't know, I would love to catch something if it wasn't, if it was something that's supposed to be caught. Um, and who am I to say no, that's not real? You know what I mean?
I love
So
that. So you're pretty open,
yeah,
it sounds like, to whatever you're meant to learn, whatever's meant to come your direction. I mean,
100%.
w- so when you were saying you grew up religious, what religion did you guys grow up in?
So I didn't grow up religious, but my mom, my dad was raised Catholic, and my mom was raised like a Unitarian Universalist. So she's kind of like hippie core, and that was like, there was no like God talk in my house at all. But my mom really likes the idea of ghosts and spirits and stuff like that. So nothing like organized, but not something, right? So this
Okay,
kind of
yeah.
agnostic belief rather than like atheism or something like that.
Okay, I see that. Yeah, 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 I could see that. And it is interesting. I mean, again, looking at the chart, if we can bring up the chart.
Whoa!
There you go. Yeah, now you can see it. Okay, perfect. So this is your natal chart and it looks a little bit different than like what you were talking about with like CoStar because with CoStar, they kind of list everything
Sure.
out, which is great. But this is a little bit more dynamic. Like you can see essentially what's going on in terms of the planets and what signs they're in, and then what
Hmm.
houses those planets are in, which essentially is the energy where the planet is being expressed, you know?
Hmm.
And so you can see that there's that big that 7, where it says the 7th, that's the 7th house.
Sure.
And that's the house of one-to-one relationships, meaning your connection with other people.
It's really a full house in there.
It's a full house. Yes, which is why we're going to talk a lot about partnership today, which it sounds a lot like you have a really wonderful partner in your life. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And in your music, I could really hear how that is such an important part of your life and everything, especially with your earlier work. But essentially, that seventh house, like you said, that is a packed house. And that house is all about one-to-one relationship, both in a romantic sense, but also in a friendship sense, also in like business partnerships and collaboration with others. And you can also see in that eighth house right next to it, you have Jupiter and Mars right there. So those are both very active planets that give you a lot of energy. And that is a house also about joint collaboration and working with others. So a lot of your energy in your chart in this lifetime is about working with others and working in collaboration with others, which makes so much sense considering that, again, in your music, I could just hear the how important relationship is and how love is so important and everything like that. But what's interesting to me is that so you've got your sun, you can see that thing that's the circle right there. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's your sun. That's in Capricorn. You have all this energy in Capricorn, a stellium, which is like a group of planets together. But right next to it, on either side, you've got two really important planets. One is Venus, which is below, and you got Venus right there next to your sun. And then above it, you have Neptune, which is right there next to your sun. Now, Neptune is the planet that I was really talking about when I was asking you about spiritualism and your
Mhm.
connection with source or connection with energy. Because Neptune is a very sensitive planet that can be very sensitive to other people's feelings, as well as just being connected to the feelings of the downloads that you get from the universe. So does
Sure.
that track?
Yeah, I guess I'm laughing for a reason. It's the good and the bad of that.
The good and the bad of it, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing when I was saying, I was like, "Oh yeah, like, I'm looking at your chart. It's such a delight." I mean, here's the thing. It's like 7th house energy. It's a Libra house. That's the house of Libra. So you don't have any
Mhm.
planets really in Libra, but you have all this Librian energy through your planets in Capricorn. So it's like the landlord is the house and the planets are
Mhm.
the tenants. So you have a lot of Librian energy. And all that Librian energy is all about finding harmony, finding peace and love and balance within your relationships. But sometimes what can happen is that we give so much to others and we constantly want to give to other people because we want to find harmony. And sometimes it's hard to have our own boundaries that it becomes like all about the other and not much about looking at what you need for yourself. And so,
Stop
so
reading me. Just
and
kidding.
that's the
Please
thing.
continue.
It's like so lovely, like meaning like I'm sure like you are just a lovely person. I mean, you seem very lovely. And like with
Thank you.
others, with your friendships, with your work relationships, with your band mates, with your primary partnership, all of it,
Mhm.
I'm sure that there's just so much harmony and love and all this great stuff. So it's really nice for others, but sometimes for yourself, it can be really hard when you have a configuration like that because sometimes it's hard to understand what you need for your own self.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
really interesting. I mean, yeah, and that's the thing is like I'm like, oh yeah, you have a delight. I'm sure you're a delight. But again, that Neptune conjunct Sun, I want to talk a little bit more about too because Neptune is so it's above the Sun. Yeah, right there. It looks like Triton's what is it? Triton and his like staff or whatever. I don't know.
The Trident.
Yeah, I guess that is the Triton, but whatever it's called, but Poseidon's thing, staff, whatever. Anyways, but I don't know. We're getting all Greek here, but the point is that planet with that Neptune, it is water based. Neptune rules Pisces, which we're going to get more to in just a minute, but through your music, it's really interesting because I started noticing, as I was saying before, I was listening to your music. I was going through, all the different albums, all the different bands you have and things like that, Pool Boys and Dog Band, and then your own personal individual music as Hugo Saint Valentine. So I was kind of, I was going through all of it. And it was interesting to me, and I wanna hear your thoughts on if you connect to this. But it was interesting to me the elements of water that came up in different songs and different lyrics and in both of those bands, Pool Boys and Dog Band. Do you connect to that at all? Like the theme of water?
Yeah. Um and then, yeah, I guess this is like the point where maybe it's like less of what I'm aware of and more of just what is. But
Y
like the Pool Boys, that was a kind of the name was kind of a coincidence. It was this other person came up with a name. Everybody in the pool, and that was not the name we wanted. And then Pool Boys was just kind of a funny party band kind of name, and it really stuck. And it became the pool became quite a funny metaphor, like kind of a joke, but
Yeah.
also then I took it very um I took it very spiritually, like because I was having so much fun with these friends, right? And like the pool, we're all in the pool. Like it's what brought us together, and it was like such like some of the most wonderful times of my life, and still is. That I in a fun artistic way, or I don't know, a fun way. Like I kind of made the pool something bigger than that joke,
So
because
you
it's fun to think about stuff that way.
I know, I see that. So it kind of started as almost like just kind of a fun social thing, like, we all go
Literally.
in the pool, and then for you, it kind of almost became more than just about that. Like, it sounds like there was did you say there was some level of spiritual element in that?
Yeah, it because it was it's like kind of those things when you make a joke so many times then it is real, like you're like that's actually how
Mm,
you think. Like if you say like, hey babe, can you pass the thing, and it's like a joke, and then suddenly you're saying babe after 20 times of being a joke, but you're actually saying it for real. The kind of
right.
like, which I do not do, no, but the pool boys like talking about the pool and like joking about the pool, like there's so much joking about it that it suddenly became, to me, the pool represented family in a way, because a couple of these guys are actually my family. Like I have a cousin and a brother in the band. But then it became like the social scene that we were trying to be a part of and create at the same time. Like it was all the pool, right? So it kind of became a joke, but then also something real. So in a sense, it became like a spiritual family, and
I
like
love that.
a fun thing.
And a fun thing, yeah, and I'm gonna get to another part of your chart that really, connects to the idea of your extended family, meaning, like,
Hmm.
the cousins, meaning, like, the stepbrother or not yeah, the half
Hmm.
bro or not half brothers, but, like, the brothers through family, through marriage, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And so that's something I really noticed too, but I started noticing, like, in the music itself. So let's talk about Pool Boys first, because again, you've got the 3 different musical,
Sure.
groups that you have, and then, or you have the 2 groups and then you have your individual music. But the Pool Boys, with your album My Other Car Is a Pool in 2018. So that is, I know on your Spotify you consider it like the family band with you and then Lorenzo, who is that your, step
That's
brother?
my stepbrother. Yes.
Okay, got it. So, Lorenzo and then your actual cousin Nick, right?
Yes.
So he's like
Yeah.
your blood related, cousin Nick and then
Yeah. Our
2 other friends.
moms are twins.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay,
Exactly.
got it. Your moms are twins. Okay, which is actually really funny with something else in your chart too, which we'll get into. But sorry, I keep like
Perfect.
leading to all these things, but
No,
there's
it's
so
good.
much.
Breadcrumbs. Keep them coming.
Exactly. I love breadcrumbs, but there's just a lot of fun stuff to talk about. But anyways, but I started noticing, like I was listening to the album and I noticed there was like, and again, I'm sure that this was a collaboration of all of you guys working together. So it wasn't just like you and your chart. And I'm curious what your bandmates' charts would be. I'm sure they have a lot of water in their charts too. But
Hmm.
it was, like,
That'd be fun.
interesting s yeah, it would be fun. Maybe we'll have your whole band come on another time, and we'll do it in person. But, I just started noticing, like, different lyrics, like, that connected back to water, like your song, I'm Fool for the Pool, that song. And there's a lyric that I really like that says, "You were my ocean, my baby blue, so when I swim in the ocean, it's a big hug for you." Right?
Mhm.
And that was a really fun one that I saw. And then I just kept on, I don't know, like I just kept on feeling this like water-based like themes coming up in that album, not only just
Mhm.
because the name of your band is Pool Boys, and not only that the songs are like all about pool and water and things like that, but then
Mhm.
there were like these lyrics in these songs that were all about that too. And then it was really
Mhm.
interesting because, we talked about your sun a little bit as a Capricorn, but it's in the seventh. And then your moon is in Virgo, which is also Earth, but your rising is Cancer. Your Cancer rising, which is also water based. It is ruled by the moon. Cancer is ruled by the moon. And then I started noticing all these different themes about the moon too. And again, maybe it was just I was looking for little clues, but I just couldn't help myself. I just was like, you know what? There's actually kind of a lot of songs within these bands, these different bands, and you being a part of that, that reminded me of that. And when your song Devil in My Pool, when I
Mhm.
listened to that one, first of all, it was really a cool, like, it almost reminded me of like New Order, like this like 80s, almost kind of like theme to it. But then when I heard the lyrics, then the moon pulled me in and we made out all night. I was like, that's big romantic Cancer vibes right there. Cancer being like the hopeless romantic. I mean, and that's the thing that I got from some of your music is that I could see just like even in Dog Band, which is,
Mhm.
you know, your first album, Dog Band, is harder, it's grungier, it's more, it's like harder rock. Even in that, there was like all this like super romantic like lyrics and music and dreaminess and all this stuff. And I was like, man, like this is like a theme that I'm noticing. So I was curious
Mhm.
what you thought of all that and if the idea of relationships and the idea of even being like a hopeless romantic, is that something that you connect to with your music or you like incorporating into your music?
Yeah. I guess I can like hearing it back is very funny, and I'm sure you get that a lot in your show.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, yeah. So it kind of starts right. So like you're young. I was a theater kid, kind of thing. So I definitely had that, and I was exposed to a lot of um, movies from my dad. That's kind of how we bonded over movies. So I became a very big movie buff. My mom worked in public television and stuff like that. So I was just surrounded by a lot of that kind of entertainment, and it's kind of something like when you're creating your personality, right? As like a young person, you're like, this is who I want to be. It was things where, like, even hearing about like the moon, like I can be like, oh shoot, did I take that from like It's a Wonderful Life, where he's like, oh, you want the moon? Like there's one like there's stuff like that, like where you kind of like look up to characters in a certain way, and then those characters kind of become your person a little bit. Especially I feel like for me, I don't want to speak of everybody, but like in the middle school, high school, and then early college years, you're like still trying to figure out like what authenticity is or what your authenticity is, and so you create it by using a whole bunch of other people's stuff. So like I think that, I guess I'm losing the question, but like I guess
No, it's
about
okay.
being
It's
romantic.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think at that time, like I was definitely like, that's who I wanted to be, and that's kind of how I felt. I'm definitely a very emotional person, so it wasn't a it was an amalgamation of like, this is what I'm really feeling, and how do I translate this is through other, there's like other things around you that feel really good because that's how you feel. But then, so yeah, it's kind of a mix of um feeling that within yourself, and then trying to translate that through how other people have said it. And I think that in the like especially like the early Pool Boy stuff, like I definitely I love romance. Like I like thinking that way, and I it's a very pleasant place to be in. And I don't know, but like the Pool Boy stuff, like I can definitely see myself trying on hats about how to express that. And it was very fun because it was kind of just like this indie punk band in college. And so like there's like the Devil in My Pool is kind of silly, like talking about the sun and the moon and making out with the moon and da 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 da. And then that other song you're talking about with the water is like a 50s kind of
Yeah.
song at the end, kind of thing. So like there's trying on these hats of like what is a romantic and that kind of stuff. Um, so I think it definitely comes through in those moments. And I guess like later, I I start to realize what I'm doing in that, and I
Yeah.
try to I'm trying to hone it in to something that is potentially less performative and more something like, because it's all, it comes from somewhere real, all of it. But the way that you're able to communicate it, um, you just start to learn how to like, oh, this is what I actually think, and this is how I actually feel, and it can be a little bit more complicated than, you want the moon? I'll throw a lasso around it. Like it doesn't, like that's where it starts. It's super simple, and that's how you kind of
Yeah.
portray it. But yeah, I love being in that space. I think that like I mean, that's some of the most intense human connection you can have is through romance. Not even like uh, romance, but like just thinking about the
Just
world
real.
romantically. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
I have only thought about the world that way. Um, I
I
think
love that, and
with
I got so excited when you were I didn't wanna cut you off, and then I got so excited because I was thinking about when you were talking about trying on different hats and everything, you're like, "Yeah, I watched movies, I saw what these romantic people do in movies, and that was something that I wanted to do,"
Mhm.
especially when you're in, like, middle school or high school and I mean, those are times where you don't really know yourself that well, you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
And so to me, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's so perfect with, again, like I was saying, the Neptune conjunct the sun, because it's like there's
Mhm.
this really close conjunction of those two planets. And Neptune sometimes, like, it is like what I was saying about there's a lot of boundaryless energy in terms of not being very clear sometimes of what you actually feel and what you're just getting from other people or what
Mhm.
you want to believe from other people. And so when you were, and like in a way, Neptunian or Piscean people, which Neptune rules, can be some of the best actors because they can literally put on a different hat and become this totally different character based on what they are receiving from that other person or script or whatever. And so when you were
Sure.
saying that in terms of like, yeah, like you were trying on different hats, you were seeing what kind of worked for you. And it was this almost flowing kind of way. And again, it's interesting because you are an earth sign, you are a Capricorn, you have all this earth in your chart, you're a Virgo moon,
Mhm.
you have all this like grounded earth energy. And yet, because you have that Neptune conjunction right there in the seventh house, which is an air house, there's almost this sense of like, it's easy to get influenced by others. And it's
Mhm.
hard sometimes. And it's good you are an earth sign because if you weren't, it'd probably even be a little harder. But like, there's like this thing of other, myself, the other, what I believe, what they believe, what I
Mhm.
want, what they want. And sometimes your own feelings about who you are can get a little past a, kind of shift. It's like
Totally.
Neptunian, it's like fog. So when you were saying all that, I was like, ding, ding, ding. Like it just made a lot of sense to me. But
Ah, sick.
it's beautiful to hear. I mean, and I get it because I have my own Piscean energy in my own chart. So, especially within relationships, it can be hard to not kind of get totally swept up in another person's energy for better, for worse, you know?
Totally, and it's intoxicating, right? Like that's some of the like I feel like that's why everybody's like, "Oh, your best days are in high school," that kind of thing. Like it's because all these feelings are so like, "Oh my god, I'm falling in love for the first time," or I'm experiencing these things for the first time, and it's those moments, and you get to feel it throughout your life. You get to fall in love again, um, for some, uh,
Yeah.
and that's what feels alive, and that's it makes sense. I don't know.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to take a pause outside of the episode to give everyone a little bit of a break from what we're talking about. I know that all this information is a lot to absorb, but I hope you're enjoying it. And if you would like to learn more about astrology or any other information with it, you can go to my website, liliroseastrology.com. Enjoy the episode. We get to Dog Band, which is also really cool, a very different vibe. But then
Mhm.
there's those songs, even within your first album, Dog Band in 2022, like
Mhm.
explosions. So it's kind of like
Mhm.
I'm picking up on this grunge vibe, which, I was kind of reading up and, based on Nirvana, based on these different grunge Seattle bands, all that great stuff. And then
Mhm.
it was like explosions. I listened to that song and you talk about like I fell into something I didn't choose. And that was like, oh my God, that is like so beautiful and romantic. And you can tell that it's like you just felt like whatever this relationship was, or
Mhm.
if it's your current one, whatever, it's like it's like something that you almost, not that you didn't have choice, but it's like your body just leaned into it. You fell into this relationship that probably felt so comfortable and so wonderful and so lovely. And so that song I thought was really romantic and kind of a different vibe than some of the other songs in that album. So it kind of reminded me actually of like early Tame Impala a little bit. I felt a little bit of that psychedelic. I know there was some of that for me. So
Sure.
what was that like writing that album? Again, this is a collaboration, so I know it's not
Mhm.
just your music, but with that, it seems like how was that for you in terms of writing this harder, grungier stuff and then kind of having that song, which was a very different feeling?
Yeah. Part of that song. So I guess there's a reason why. So part of that song was actually written. It was like the in between point between when the Pool Boys album came out and then the first Dog Band album came out. A lot of the Dog Band stuff came out like during like April,
Mm.
May or of COVID 2020. But Explosions, most of that came from like my junior year of college. So
Oh.
it was kind of like an old song that I kind of reworked a little bit and then brought into the newer Dog Band album. So I think potentially that's why they're yeah, I don't yeah, I don't know. It's like yeah. I'm at a loss a little
And
bit.
that's okay. No, it's
Yeah, totally.
that's the thing. It's like we're looking at your chart, you're thinking about all these things that were like from the past, and sometimes it's confusing. Like, well, I don't know. It's like it's sometimes like the astrology can bring up stuff that is like a little bit confusing because maybe it's not something that you've really thought about much, or like talking about
Sure.
these past albums and past songs. And that is very Neptunian in itself, like the idea of confusion and the idea of, especially because you have your sun right there. I
Mhm.
could imagine that there could be some level of confusion that goes through
Mhm.
your head. Maybe it's because, again, you're like, for me, I can take in a lot of energy from other people. And then I
Mhm.
get really confused in my own head of what is like what I'm feeling actually, like what's
Sure.
going on, what is the true stuff. And so I could imagine with having that, again, that Neptune sun right there, like there could be a certain level of confusion that maybe you go through on a day-to-day basis. Do you feel like there's times or moments in your life where you're just a little bit like it's a haze. It's a little bit hazy, a little bit foggy. Like it's like you have to
Oh
make
yeah.
through that.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Every day. I think it only
Every
gets
day.
more it only
Yeah.
gets more foggy and foggy. But I guess like for that album, like I guess like throughout hopefully these albums, what I'm trying to do is be less and less like I have like a moral compass, right? And I have like feelings and stuff like that. But I things are not one way or the other a lot of the time, emotionally.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to allow myself to feel those things and to release them in my art. So like the Dog Band album, like obviously like there was a lot of change. I'd gone through a breakup. COVID happened and the world shut down, and I'm a hypochondriac, so I was locked indoors. I was lucky enough to live with my cousin who was in Pool Boys. So he's actually the drummer
Oh,
on that
yeah.
band and does a lot of the other stuff. So I had this kind of like arc during COVID of being able to make a lot of music. And I kind of what you pointed to earlier, I had like discovered Nirvana my senior year of college, which is funny because I'm from Seattle and I just never listened to them, never gave them the time of day. And now it's looking back, it's like, oh god, it's a little cringe stuff. But
Oh, so yeah.
yeah, it's like accessing this maybe more aggressive, angrier side that I was not having in like this kind of like I don't know, whatever the Pool Boys first album was, where it was like a little, oh, this and happy, and I was inspired by David Bowie and by there was a lot of like the indie scene in college was a lot of like 50s kind of comeback like surf music and stuff like that. So there was a lot of happy, fluffy stuff, and then COVID happened and I got into grunge music and I was like, like that kind of thing. And but like some of my major influences that I like kind of have like a North Star with like are people like Glenn Hansard from the movie Once and stuff like that. Like that
Oh,
music. And that's music that I grew up with in the car with my mom. So like that, The Cure, Death Cab for Cutie. Like there's like these North Stars that are like really just imprinted on me that like I like I love punk music and I really want to write punk music because isn't that so cool? And I fail again and again to write, or I think of it to write punk music because it's just I keep hitting back at that, like it's not full aggression or it's not full this or not
Yeah.
full that. Like there it's I can feel myself removing those hats of like being able to like I'm gonna write this kind of song. I'm gonna write this kind of song. Like it's confusing because you feel all these things all at once, and especially when the world's on fire and stuff like that, they're like, oh my god, and even there's even more stuff going on. Your inner turmoil, and it's translating that into the music has been like a therapy for me. It's been like like a saving grace for me. And sometimes it just comes out kind of like I definitely vomit when I write music. I'm not like sitting there in my room scratching my head saying this is what I'm going to write next. Like if the
Yeah.
song doesn't get written in an hour, it's not getting written,
Right.
typically. So it is kind of just this kind of like what am I feeling kind of um
It's big
yeah.
feelings. Yeah. I get it. I really get it because that's the thing. I go through that too. And I think that Piscean Neptunian energy, it's not clear cut. It's not clear cut. And it is
Yeah.
confusing when you're feeling all these things from other parts of the world or other people. And like, especially like you were saying during COVID, that was such a stressful, upsetting time. And so
Yeah.
it's understandable that you were in a place where you're like, I want to channel the anger and the frustration. And, maybe you were picking up on the anger from the world. And I mean, there was probably a lot that you were picking up on when you started writing this music, and it was really interesting. And again, I really get what you're saying about trying on the hats. And it's interesting because actually, can we pull the chart back up? Because there's something that I think is going to be helpful to look at with the
Mhm.
chart, because of what is called a south node and a north node. So the south
Okay.
node in the ninth house, it kind of it's that almost like that horseshoe shape right there. The right there.
Yep.
Thank you for the pink highlighter. So that's essentially where you're coming from. Like if you believe in like past lives, if you believe in, past karma, lessons that you've learned before in not in this lifetime, but in a lifetime before.
Mhm.
This is what you're coming in with. So this is the energy that you are coming into this life with. And oh, look at that. That's funny. It's in Pisces. What Neptune rules. So it's kind of like you're starting off from this base of a
Mhm.
Piscean place, meaning it's beautiful. That is really the direction that you're coming from. So it is sensitive, it's intuitive, and I don't know if as a child, if maybe that was something that you experienced even more so in terms of being incredibly sensitive to other people's emotions, other people's feelings, what was going on in your childhood, everything like that, which I
Massively.
do want to talk yeah, and I do want to talk about your childhood just a little bit because I know
Please.
that yeah, and I'm sure it's affected your music too. It sounds like so you had obviously your mom and dad, and then when you were younger, your parents got divorced, right?
Mhm. When I was 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
What when you were 9? Okay, yeah. And so then your mom ended up remarrying someone who you were saying was her high school sweetheart,
Mhm.
and which is and then brought in brought in other children who then you became really close with and everything like that. And with your
Mhm.
father, it sounds like the relationship that you have with your father is maybe slightly confusing in its own way. And maybe a little Piscean in its own. And I don't know what your father or mother's chart is, but I'm curious, I guess, to understand the relationship, especially with your father, because it
Mhm.
sounds like there might be some confusion within that. And the other thing I want to bring up before I hear what you're going to say is that when you look at the fifth house, there's the fifth house, and then there's that little K that's right there. That's an asteroid. And that asteroid is named Chiron. And Chiron is basically the wounded healer. So he talks about your ego wounds and talks about places where you're hurt slightly
Mhm.
and where you're trying to grow and essentially learn to work with that hurt so then you can help other people in that. And that's in your fifth house, which is the house of children, meaning it could be literally the children you have, but it's also about your relationship to yourself as a child and the
Sure.
type of childhood you might have had and the way you connect to joy and fun and happiness. And having Chiron right there to me really says a lot about that there could have been a inhibiting block towards that level of fun and joy in childhood, things that like are just fun for kids, having a fun and happy childhood, which I'm sure you had in a lot of ways. But
Mhm.
just with all that in mind, what was the childhood like and what's the relationship with your father like now?
So my dad is an artist. My grandfather is an artist, a working artist, like a sculptor,
Mm.
um, in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Um, and I I remember. It's funny because I don't remember a lot about my father pre divorce. Like I remember obviously a lot of love, and there were some good times, and there's some bad times, just like anybody with their family. Um, but like I remember like he's a goofy guy too. Like he can be goofy, really goofy, and really serious. And like so I grew up with a lot of artwork around the house that he had made from college, and later he went to Massachusetts Institute of Art or whatever it's called,
Mhm.
and did a lot of there was like a whole bunch of like these wonderful figure drawings around our house and like some scary drawings that were or kind of gothic drawings, scary to a
Oh,
child, but to
yeah.
an adult I'm like, oh, that's like I want that stuff, like that's the cool stuff. um and yeah, he's extremely inspiring to me artistically, um, because that is what he wants and also struggles with. Like he's not an artist who's made it, quote unquote. Um, he works, yeah. So it's like kind of I have a lot of memories of like playing with like action figures with him and like creating these like massive Star Wars sets. He was really into Star Wars and stuff like that and all the sci-fi stuff. So we'd have these massive battles, stuff like that. There's a lot of like pretend in that way, and there was also a lot of serious stuff. Like obviously my parents got divorced, so there was arguing between parents, as
Oh
any
god. And I bet was
child.
that really, like, a lot for you to take in? Like,
Yeah,
feeling being an empathic person and feeling, like, all the energy both from mom, dad, and plus, like, also Pisces, like, is very artistic in itself, so that makes a lot of sense for your father, the fact that he was into that, but I could imagine that that was just a lot of energy, just a lot to take
yeah,
in at that time.
yeah. There was a lot of like. I mean, I think any parental like arguing or uncomfortability is upsetting, obviously, or not obviously, I don't know, to me I guess it's obvious.
I mean, I
Yeah, so
think for a
like
lot of people, it's hard. Yeah.
100%, yeah, like if you see your parents fighting or yelling, that's an extremely uncomfortable place to be. And um sometimes I think like looking back and like through therapy afterwards, like like internalizing that kind of thing, like, oh, did I do that, um and stuff like that, definitely was fairly ungrounding. Um, and I think that's just the nature of the beast with divorce. Both from my dad and my mom. Love them both to death too. So mom and dad, if you're listening,
Yeah.
please don't take offense to this.
Well,
As
and
I
that's the thing. It's like, yeah, I mean, like, parents are doing the best they can. And I'm sure as a seventh house person with all that sensitivity in your chart, I'm sure that that was, just I could imagine almost like it's like, did I cause conflict? Like, it's like not wanting
totally.
conflict, not wanting like issues. And like, did I do that? Like, was I responsible? I mean, that's what
Yeah,
I would
it
imagine with this chart.
it definitely affected me in that I tried to become a peacemaker, right? So like,
Yeah. Peacemaker.
I like because I had a younger sister too, so I was like the elder brother, and kind of thing. And I definitely this I do like I wasn't like a jokester pre 9 years old, right? Like that was not like I played sports and I was obviously sensitive and I had an allergy and I don't know all this stuff. And but and like kind of goofing around. We like to play dress up and pretend and stuff like that. And so there was definitely like that as a part of me. But then like obviously like when parents, fighting and then divorce and stuff like that and new changes and stuff like that, I definitely started, I mean, it's developing this kind of jokey attitude, whether people find it funny or not is up to them. But like definitely
Yeah.
like being like, oh, funny voices and just kind of trying to get people to laugh and smile. And that's definitely how I felt self-worth for a lot of my life. And still to this day. I think many people probably
I
feel
could
that.
I think a lot of people do, especially when you're the kind of person that doesn't want, there to be a ton of conflict going on. And, you're trying, like
Yeah.
you said, the peacemaker, making sure everyone's good. But it really is so interesting with your chart because, again, I could see like how it would be hard to stay grounded in this situation. And also, you have all that Capricorn energy, even though it's in a less grounded house and the Neptune of it all kind of makes it less grounded. But you do have
Totally.
that part of you, I'm sure. Yeah, that's like earthy, grounded, like, and maybe more serious too, which is kind of like what you were saying
A
as
hundred
a
percent.
kid. But yeah, so it's like it is. It's like all about a combination. And I really do want to, kind of mention that that South Node in Pisces. I mean, yes,
Mhm,
that is a place that you're learning to find balance with, but where you're going is
mhm,
you can see in that third house. There's the symbol that looks almost like a pair of earphones down at the third. And that's where your moon is. So you're actually a Virgo moon, which is also
mhm,
incredibly grounded and
mhm,
it's very like technical, it's very structured, so it's like you have some energy that's a little bit not as structured and then you have some energy that's more structured and I'm sure that comes in part in different things of your life in different parts of your life. But it's interesting because what I wanted to touch on, and then I want to touch
yes.
on one other thing and I don't want to run out of time, but the north node in Virgo, that's the direction you're going in. So it's like you're looking at or working with, again, healing, helping people, channeling in all these intuitive downloads, being a sensitive person, wanting to help people through your music, channeling that. But with that Virgo North Node, being able to channel it in a more practical way, being able to do it in a more grounded way, and moving into the third house, and this is why I was laughing when I like saw that
Mhm,
you had all these different bands and all these different things because the third house is the Gemini house and Gemini is doing a million things all the time. It's about its multiplicity.
mhm,
And so when I got your pre-interview and was looking it over and I saw, oh my goodness, he has three different musical projects going on all at the same time, and they're all about to release new music. I was like, man, that is like a third house energy. If I would not be able to keep all that straight in my head, but you're able to, with that third house north node, being able to learn. And it's really funny too, because the third house is also about extended family
mhm,
and cousins. And it's so interesting to me that like all these projects and the things you're doing are within extended family. You're with your
mhm,
stepbrothers, they're with your cousins. Like these projects you're working on are all with other people in collaboration, which
mhm,
again is that big eighth house energy. But the thing that I love too is the fact that like the third house is also about writing. It's about communication. It's about being able to work with all the different things going on in your head, which I'm sure with that Pisces South Node is a lot of different feelings and energies and all that stuff going on all at once. Being able to channel that in a very grounded, practical Virgonian way, which is more structured, and being able to do it in a third house kind of way, which is all about writing and communicating. So, using the downloads, using all the thoughts, putting it into a grounded way of communication, and then being able to translate that so that you can share it with the world, which is what I mean, congrats to you because it seems like that's what you're doing right now.
it's definitely what I'm trying to doing. I mean, like trying to doing. But I mean, like, yeah. I guess I never thought. I guess I thought about it. Like, obviously, I was talking about like music writing being a therapy for myself, and I guess that is a grounding of letting the feelings kind of come through in a organized way. Um, but like what you were talking about, like the healing stuff, like I don't like if you ever have the chance to yell in front of a crowd of people and for people to go clap and cheer and go, Yeah, I like that. There is specifically like through art stuff. And I'm obviously talking about like screaming during music. There is nothing more powerful to me than when I witness that from somebody or when I do that myself and get a reaction from somebody. Um,
Yeah,
because it is structured, so it makes it okay to feel, and like that's, I think that's why probably we're drawn to the arts, right? So there's it's an organized way of releasing emotion, so people can take that and make it theirs, and that's what I want to do, right? So like I'm definitely using music as a way to heal myself, but I also, because I've had music and other art impact me so deeply to enough where I put on crazy hats and I do this, become my personality. Like I want to I want to be a part of that conversation with other people. Like I want to, it's not giving, it's not giving back. Like
yeah,
I it's selfish because it helps me, but it's also something that has helped me from other people, and it is so spiritual in that way. It can be so vague and yet
exactly.
make exactly the most sense. And I think that that's kind of like this ungroundedness, like from relationships, from family, from the world, like it gives it a vehicle to say nothing and say everything at the same time, and how it translates. So that's definitely something
It's
that's been very
there's
important to me.
Oh, for sure. And I really get
Mhm.
that. And I can really imagine how, again, being a sensitive person, picking up on everything from relationships, family, like you said, the world, it's overwhelming. And I think that's why sometimes Piscean people, I mean, most of the time they are musicians in a lot of ways or creative artists in different ways, but a lot of times they deal and struggle with drug or alcohol or escapism because
Sure.
it is so incredibly overwhelming. And again, I think it's really good that you have all that grounded Capricorn in your chart so that, that's not maybe something that you would go to as much. But I think for a lot of Piscean, Neptunian people, they go towards escapism because it's overwhelming to take in all this information all at once and be able to handle it. It's a lot.
Totally, totally. And like, yeah, I steer clear from like the drug stuff. But like
Yeah.
movies have always been my I guess my drug, right? Like I constantly watch movies, and this is something I actually picked up from my dad. Like I constantly rewatch the same movies that make me feel good. He does that all the time,
Mm,
and it's something that
yeah.
I have done without recognizing that it's something that I might have picked up. Um, yeah, I don't know. You need some sort of form of coping
We
with
all,
the
we
jumble. The
all,
jumble.
the jumble of it all. Yeah, we all need
Exactly.
something. Hi, guys. I just wanted to take a pause outside of the episode to give everyone a little bit of a break from what we're talking about. I know that all this information is a lot to absorb, but I hope you're enjoying it. And if you would like to learn more about astrology or any other information with it, you can go to my website, liliroseastrology.com. Enjoy the episode. But I did want to talk about before we
Please,
end because I
please.
think we're almost at our time, but I did before we end, I really wanted to talk about your individual work as Hugo Saint Valentine
Yeah.
because I know that that's something that now is a more current project and it's really interesting, like I was saying before with, Pool Boys and then Dog Band. Like you see these like shifts in your music. And I'm sure it's like the shifts that you were going through as a person, and
Mhm.
with the band and everything. And then it's like you get to Hugo St. Valentine, and then there you are. Here's another shift of sound and what you're writing about and the themes of what you're writing about. And it's interesting because I know that you were talking about like right now, currently, something that is a theme that's on your mind is maybe death and shifts with death and working through that, kind of understanding what that means and trying to kind of get to the root of all what, death is and stuff. And I
Mhm.
picked up on that definitely, obviously, with even the name Death and Other Demos. That was, pretty clear. And then, with some of the songs, I mean, again, it was a very different vibe. It was more folky. Like it was a really
Mhm.
fun, like Pixies vibe to me. And like the song Choosing a Good Day to Die. I was curious, like where are you at right now? And why is that kind of the inspiration for this new album and also this new project that you're doing?
Yeah. So I guess like so I got all the dog band anger out, like in that specifically that first album. Um and then the second dog band album, Daisies Want Me Dead, I kind of was going with like it was post that. It was like the reaction to like the hardcore grunge. And it was just me with a guitar, garage band on my phone, kind of like Steve Lacy style. I had
Hmm.
just moved to San Francisco and I had some of these songs and I just wanted to release it out into the world. Just going through life issues and stuff. Anyways, it speaks for itself, I hope. But going
It
into
does. It was
the
like
Hugo
a
St.
very
Valentine,
soft. Yeah.
thank you. Going into the Hugo St. Valentine stuff, I mean, I'm 27, going on 28, and they really don't talk about this in the world or in media very much, but like this is the time when people start dying, typically, um, or at least I guess in my life, it could happen to anybody at any time. But right now, people are starting to die. I had an uncle die of a heart attack that was very sudden, somebody that I was very close with and grew up with. Um, a second father, kind of. So that was extremely impactful. I had my stepfather's friend died of cancer. A couple of my grandparents died, and then you also have people who are starting to have kids, right? I have some people I went to high school with who are starting to have kids, and I have some of the older cousins who are in their 30s starting to have kids and stuff like that. So there's a lot of this death and birth and life stuff, and I had I don't remember exact like I think it was like via like if I was to track it musically. Like I've always been into folk music, right? So like I kind of go back to like that Glenn Hansard one person with
Hmm.
a guitar kind of thing singing, and other folks as well. And then in college I got into, like many other indie lovers, the Adrian Lenker solo album stuff. And that was very beautiful and very vulnerable and impacted music. And I think that that's kind of where like some of the dog band 2 Daisies Want Me Dead comes from.
Hmm.
Trying to simplify it. I've been trying to ever since the big dog band album, the dog band self-titled, which was a very big production. We had a whole bunch of instruments and it took a year and a half to finally get the mix and masters ready. We did this whole go. Anyways, it's a very large album. I have been working since then to try to distill as much as possible, in presentation. And I think this is kind of where punk comes in. Um, Anyone can do punk. Like that's my ethos. Like what's so cool about punk is that it allows everybody into the conversation if you like. There's no
Hmm.
barrier of like skill and stuff like that. Um, and it's also quick. Like you have a minute and a half songs, like or a minute songs, and like you say what you need to and you get out kind of thing. And that was super impactful to me. Kind of coming out of some of the dog band songs are like 5 minutes long. Um, and the Adrian Lenker kind of folk stuff and then other people kind of in between kind of led to. I had always had an interest. Like there was a point in high school where I was like when Spotify was first coming out, I was like doing homework to like old blues music. I don't really know where that came from, um, but I had forgotten a lot about that. And then the Adrian Lenker stuff, I somehow found the artist Elizabeth Cotten, who's an old folk artist with the song Freight Train she wrote famously. She has a beautiful, beautiful music, if you haven't listened to it, and she has a wild story. And it was just like music that really like knocked me over. Like you kind of like stop what you're doing and you're just listening to this woman with a guitar singing these very, very simple old songs. And it really kind of, that's when it started opening up to me, the world of like kind of like this old folk, like kind of like Dust Bowl folk. Like I got really into the Carter Family and old Johnny Cash and all the people that surround that. But like the Carter Family and Elizabeth Cotten were like kind of the people who I was listening to this music, and specifically the Carter Family at this point, which is just like old gospel music. The like the song like Can the Circle Be Unbroken? I don't know if you know that song, but like
Hmm.
it's this really happy like ding 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 ding, like you're just like walking down a road kind of music, just kind of, woohoo. But the music is so sad. Like the lyrics are so sad. Like the
Yeah.
juxtaposition between this bouncy, rambly music and like, you know, I I told the Undertaker, hey, please drive slow. That's my mom in the car, and I don't want to see her go, kind of thing. Those aren't the exact lyrics, but
Oh,
like, oh my God, it hits
wow.
you in the freaking heart. And it kind of ties back to my interest with like goth music, like from The Cure and stuff like that, and music that was like happy with sad lyrics, or
Yeah.
sad with happy lyrics. Like that, I really like that juxtaposition. I think it makes for some very interesting art. And so this old music kind of knocked me over, like, and I was like, oh my God. And this was at the exact same time, and I probably found this music because there's a lot of people dying in my life, and for sudden reasons and stuff like that. And I think where I started to get the Hugo Saint Valentine of it all is I was having this input, and I was having this other like people dying input, and this specifically the family friend of my stepfather who died of cancer. He ended his life through physician assisted suicide.
Oh,
And
wow.
my
Mhm.
stepfather got to go there with him. So he was there at his house, him and his friend's wife and their dog, and was literally there in his last moments, chatting with him. And then he went out to the yard and died under the sun. And it's something
Oh,
that,
wow.
like, even talking about it right now, I knew him, I knew the guy, but I didn't know him super super well. But it's just such a moment that it's just, for some reason it's so impactful, just that everything about it,
Yeah.
like obviously death is very sad, and um the physician assisted suicide, I don't know, it could be complicated for many people,
It's a lot. Yeah,
but for
it's
some
yeah.
reason, yeah, it's a lot, and it was a lot for me. And it was, I literally, that's what the song Choosing a Good Day to Die is, specifically based off of written. I don't like to write music that is super like I was walking down the street on 34th Street and there was my friend Gene. You know, like I don't like to write very specific lyrics. I like to kind of keep it vague because it allows other people to do what they want with it, which I really like, kind of liked in music. Um, so I kind of took, and it wasn't even like I didn't even know what I was going to do with the song. It was just like it was literally a moment where I was like, I just need to write a song right now because I'm feeling all of these
Hmm.
crazy emotions, and it wasn't something that I'm like, I don't know. It was one of the purest songwriting processes that I've ever had, where it was literally like, wow, I'm feeling so much from this moment of this man's life that I didn't really know about, but it's touched people in my family's life, and now it's touching me. And it's such a complicated feeling that it kind of just kind of vomited
Well,
into the song.
yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you said you about distilling things. And that was so
Mhm,
kind of perfect with the Virgo North Node and the Virgo moon, which you have in your natal chart.
mhm,
And it's like such a perfect combination of the thoughts that are bubbling around in your head, like, and then distilling it down, like you were saying, just distilling it down into words and being able to
mhm,
use that in this cathartic way, especially when you're talking about all these really heavy subjects that are confusing, like you said, like,
totally.
assisted suicide. That is like, that's really a confusing topic and idea for I think a lot of people. So it's really amazing that you were able, again, using again the South Node and Pisces and all the feelings and all these thoughts and ideas and all this, and then distilling it down into words that you could use to like kind of translate how you were feeling in that moment. And that's a beautiful practice that I think is going to help you for your whole life.
Yeah. It basically like it was like writing choosing a good day to die and some of the other songs that were on that album. Like I was, the Hugo Saint Valentine thing was also something that was I had kind of in my mind failed as Dog Band, or as any of the other bands where I didn't make it right. It's like no one, oh, like I'm having a hard time booking shows and stuff like that. So I wanted to return to fun with my music. It's funny that it turned into choosing a good day to die. That's the fun
Went
music.
a different direction.
Um, Exactly. But it was kind of like I don't want to write music to it was music for me, which is very cliche to say, but like it was like I wasn't writing, like I don't think that this Dust Bowl folk music is cool right now. Whereas I think that like during the dog band stuff, I was trying to write music that I think people would also think is cool.
Mhm.
Um so there was so much less pressure about how to try to get somebody to like it versus for myself and the process of making music to enjoy it and for it to fulfill me and do whatever it is in the universe that I'd want it to do. So like there was also like the song burning down an electric car or burning down a self-driving
I
car,
love
something like
that
that.
one.
Thank you. But that was like it was kind of improvised. It wasn't something that was going to turn out that way. And I was like, oh, what if I did this? Haha, isn't that kind of funny? And then there was an event that happened here in San Francisco where some kids burned down on one of the self-driving cars around here,
Oh,
and
I think I heard of that. Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, yeah. So like this, the sound that was kind of the was kind of like it kind of sounded like what I thought that car might sound like if it was dying. But I don't know. Like it was. I'm trying to get across something. I want because the punk kind of comes back into this too, like that kind of doom 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 kind of like really easy, and part of the ecosystem of a lot of music, right? It's just old music. It's familiar. It's so accessible, and I find it so accessible. It's so much easier to write, and it's so much easier to like have fun with, and think about. And then also just the distilling of these vocals, like having stuff that's a little bit more repetitive, or it's a little shorter, or just verse chorus kind of thing, which is a lot of like this old stuff. It's like somebody will sing da 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 da, and everybody come in and singing "Can the circle be unbroken" kind of thing. It's just it's so inviting. Also, like when I see this type of music, like I want to join in, and it's kind of like it's kind of like it's kind of like this church, right? It's like it's gospel stuff. Like
Hmm.
it's meant to be. It's meant to hopefully bring people in and for everybody to kind of have a good time. And the music is fun. Like it's like very happy major chords typically. But then they also sing about this super sad stuff, and I think that that is such a inviting way to um, ex- maybe have somebody experience, because I'm a very happy person, and I also have extremely depressive episodes, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the world is such a serious place, that I was writing all this sad music. Like Daisies Want Me Dead is kind of a very sad album. There's a lot of minor and dissonant stuff, and I was like, I don't want that anymore. Like I'm living in this kind of sleepy, sedative. Like I think a lot of indie music has gone in this sleepy, sedative, which, and I love it too. So it's, you know,
Yeah.
but I wanted something completely different from what I was doing, and that kind of brought life back into it. And that is something that was just like, I want to get a message across fairly easy, fairly universally, and I want it to be a little happier and bouncier, because I think that life requires that kind of tune as you walk down the
Well,
street.
it's both, like you were saying. It's like you
Yeah,
can have the happiness, you can have the happy, inviting tune while also talking about really serious topics. And I mean, isn't that just what life is? It's such a
literally.
combination of, you know, literally like life and death, and the happiness of it all and the tragedy of it all. And so I think you did an amazing job combining all that stuff. And I really did what you were saying about Daisies Want Me Dead. I noticed that. I was like, huh, this seems to be a lot more melancholy of an album. And
Totally.
so it's like it definitely came through and stuff. But I did want to show you one last thing, and then we'll
Please.
jump off. Essentially, you can see the inner wheel is all your natal chart. That's the same thing as the chart we were looking
Hmm.
at before. But then the outer wheel is the transiting chart, meaning what is happening like today, literally September 28th at 12 p.m. That's what's happening in San Francisco for you.
Well,
And it's so literally what's happening. And so it's interesting because not only, you're 27, you're going to be getting into your Saturn return, which for all you listeners out there, we talked about the Saturn return on the second season of AstroLyrical if you want to go back and listen to it. But essentially, just for you to know, Jasper, like Saturn returns are kind of a time where Saturn connects with Saturn. It's, transiting Saturn is connecting with your natal Saturn. And so that is a period for, around 2.5 years where you are really reevaluating things. You are really questioning things. You are learning to do things differently. So not only are you going into that, but you also have Pluto, which is right there. You can see in your seventh house, and it's pretty much close, exact to a conjunction to your natal Neptune right there. You can see it at 1 degrees right there, and it's pretty
hmm.
close to your sun. And Pluto is all about death and rebirth. And so it's really interesting when, I was looking at everything and you were talking about how influenced you are right now about death and this album that came out, just last year, and like talking about how all these transits are affecting you in such a personal way and thinking about life and death and what that means. And especially the fact that you're experiencing this in such a personal way with these people that are your family and friends. And like, even with your friends, when you were talking about your friends are moving into different chapters, like they are
Yeah.
having kids now, like that is even a death in some ways of what was, what
Yeah.
is, it's like what you were
Yeah.
used to is now gone. And now people are transitioning. And Pluto is all about transformation and being able to really go through big changes. So I just wanted to, bring that up to give you a little bit of a support, knowing that it's not just in your head. These are
Thank you
things.
for saying that.
Yeah, these are things that are going on transit wise in your astrology and really made a lot of sense for why your music is going a little bit more in that direction, which is really cool. It's really cool that you're translating it all into your music. So I love it.
It feels good to hear because it is a time. Literally today, I was having a conversation with my brother about like reevaluating life, type of like, or like what is it that I'm actually doing here? Why am I doing the things that, like, why am I working at the job that I want? Why do I feel the need for people to listen to my music or like this kind of thing? Like it is an extremely conflicting
Yeah.
time, and I'm sure everybody feels this kind of at this time too, but maybe because of my chart I'm feeling this way also too. So thank you, chart, for letting me know that this is not in my head.
The
Win for
chart is
astrology.
coming through. No, totally. Yeah. There are
Exactly.
things specific to you that are happening, and there's things collectively that we're all
Mm,
going through. But yeah, specific to you, you are going through or about to go through a Saturn return, which is in itself a whole thing. Just talk to anyone who's like
yeah.
29 or has already gone through it. It is really
Totally.
yeah, it's a conflicting time, but that Pluto
Which is
aspect,
comforting. Which is comforting to
that's
hear because then you can say, "Buckle up." You know what I mean? It's like, "Oh, this is okay. This is part of the journey of being a human, and it's okay to let it come at you this way because it will resolve at some point."
It
Also,
will, and that's the thing. It's like the comfort in astrology is knowing why certain energy might be happening, how you work with it,
no,
and knowing that it will pass, but it's for your inner growth.
yeah, totally.
So it's pretty amazing. And anyways, but it was really cool hearing Hugo Saint Valentine, hearing all the songs, being able to kind of pick up on that with the astrology. It just all coincided so beautifully. And so I really feel like you must be very tuned in, even though you don't like look at your astrology all the time. It must be that you're very tuned in to what's going on in the ether.
I definitely think about it all of the time. I don't know exactly what I'm thinking about or like why I'm thinking about it, but it is something I do think about. I guess the universe a lot, or I think about like this move to this music also, like this kind of Dust Bowl music is, and using the word God in music because it's such a word that I didn't want to use in music. But also listening like bands like Neutral Milk Hotel, where it's cool to say that. Also, like I don't really believe in God, but I do believe in spiritualness and connectedness and stuff like that. And I think God is just such a, because the music that I'm listening to, it's such an easy word to come like to get across.
Yeah.
Like when I say God, like I literally I'm talking about whatever the hell it is. Like
The
there's
energy
yeah
that is
the
whatever.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a line like, and Jesus Christ or whoever it is, a darkness, a kiss, will love you for the rest of your life. Like like that's what I'm feeling.
I love that. All the
I'm allowing
feelings.
myself to express it. Yeah.
No, and that's the goal. That's the journey you're on right now is learning how to express it and learning how to put it in words and being able to put in your music. And you're doing just that. So you're on the path.
Thank you. And it's messy at the same time, and I love and hate that.
Exactly. Virgos don't like messes, but Pisces are inherently kind of messy. So it's a balance of all of it.
Story of my life. Yeah.
I love it. Well, so tell us about, so you have so is all the music coming out now? Like for all your individual projects, are you doing new albums for all of them? Are they all coming out pretty soon?
Yeah, so Dog Band, I had a live band here in San Francisco, with some friends of mine, Claire Blackwell, Rakesh Beatty, and Allison Jaster. And we were gigged around San Francisco for a good year and a half. But then we had some people move away, so the band is kind of seemed to crumble. But we got an album out of it with some new stuff. So I'm very excited
Cool.
that that's going to come out pretty soon within the next couple of months.
Oh.
And then Pool Boys has been doing, we've been working on an album for like 2 years of, we all live in different places around the US, and we've been Google driving stems, and we like make a song and then somebody will add to that track and add to that track. So it's been, and everybody's been writing music. Like the Pool Boys was, I wrote the songs and then they put all the color into it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like this, that's how it was communal. But this one is like more of like the Beatles style of like everyone's got a song on here and we've all added to that. And that's been such a wonderful process that we're releasing soon. It's called Night Swim.
Ooh. Oh, Night Swim.
KNIGHT.
That's fun.
Exactly. But there's got to be another pun in there, so that's
Yeah.
what we're doing. So that's coming out soon. That's almost fully mixed and mastered. And then this Hugo Saint Valentine stuff. I have some other songs that are not on the Death and Other demos that I want to release, so I'll release it as a full album. And I've been trying to perform that around the city as well.
You're busy. You got a lot going on.
But it's the only thing that keeps me sane these days. And I have a lot of wonderful people in my life that I get to be able to do it with. So that is incredibly fueling, and I am very fortunate to have that kind of community in my life.
I love that. Perfect seventh house sun. Love that partnership with others. So it's really beautiful it's really beautiful to hear. And I'm very excited to hear all your new music and, just get to see all the different energy that's coming through your music now and everything you're downloading and everything. But I'm very curious. So the downloads, what are you performing for us today?
Is it one song, 2 songs?
Whatever you like. 1 or 2. 1 is good, or 2. Honestly, I'd be happy with 2.
Happy with 2? If we're gonna do 2, I'll do just 2 of the songs off of the Hugo stuff, which is Choosing a Good Day to Die and Whiskey Over Wine.
Oh, I like that one too. That sounds great.
So yeah, it'd be fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jasper. You have been a delight to talk to, and we really appreciate
so have you.
Of course. Thank you so much. And really, we appreciate your openness and vulnerability with everything. And now we are going to hear a couple songs from Jasper Cote. Yeah, there we go. Jasper Cote, and from his album Hugo Saint Valentine, Death and Other Demos.
Choosing a good day to die. Easy as picking a song. Easy as picking a song. Easy as picking a song. Last song of your life. And in the day with the dance, and in the day with the dance, da-da-da. Easy as loving someone. Easy as loving someone. Easy as loving someone. Love them your whole life. And I know that Jesus Christ, or whoever it is, This next one is whiskey over wine. If I get another shot, I swear I'll be better. Please give me another shot. Whiskey over wine. My baby's drink was always whiskey over wine. The angels at heaven's gate are all kind of ugly, 'cause nothing compares to the face I used to see. Sweet and smooth like whiskey, yeah. Da 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 da. Baby,
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. Remember, all of our charts are uploaded to our Instagram, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at AstroLyrical_pod. And we have a YouTube now as well. So make sure to like, subscribe, and tell all your friends, and please comment. We love to hear all your thoughts. This podcast is recorded by John Neisen, produced by Juliana Hartman and Danielle Marascalchi, and hosted by me, Liana Bassior. Thanks and goodbye.